Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Don, how's it going?
That's me. That's
Hey.
my syllables. Don't wear it out.
Well, this is another episode of Suburban Rebels broadcast with Don Bolles of the Germs and 45 Grave and a shitload of other bands.
Yes, indeed.
So how did
and you're being kind with that assessment.
Well, how did you first get into punk rock?
I was into punk rock before there really was much punk rock to be into. I was like, along with probably a lot of other people, sort of waiting for this thing to happen, and we didn't really know what, it was going to be, but things were sort of falling into place pretty slowly. And then when when Glam died, we had MC5, we had Iggy, we had all the 60s stuff that Lester Bangs was actually talking about, like, the Count 5 and all of that stuff. And Question Mark and the Mysterians, all that stuff was punk rock. And we just wanted it to be big so we could have a real music trend that we could go see these bands and then they'd get rich and then no, I don't know about that, but we wanted our stuff to be in the world where we could go see it and we could play the stuff. And the thing about it was, which I don't know, this is weird because computers do this even more than punk rock did, but anybody could be a rock star without you couldn't be an asshole and a rock star like that, but you could be all the rock star you needed to be if you just knew one bar chord or two.
Yeah.
That's why there were no drummers in LA, and I had to move here to join the Germs because they needed a drummer because everyone did, because no one wanted to play drums because, why play drums when you can play real musical instruments because it's punk rock and it's easy.
Yeah. So that's what made you want to come to LA, right? And join the Germs?
Kim Fowley, too. I wanted to be where Kim Fowley was. I had to wait until I got a trust fund check from the government to leave Phoenix for LA. I tried to move to San Francisco, but that didn't go very well. That place kind of sucked. People there were older than people in New York, and they were hippies that were trying to be punk.
Yeah.
It was just basically their idea of punk was like those weird pointy John Waters sunglasses, that the ladies would wear. Those crazy.
Your recording has reached the maximum length. To replay your message, press 1. To delete and re-record your message, press 3. For delivery options, press 4. To send a fax, press 6. To cancel this message, press star. To send this message canceled. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, hey. So anyway, we're still here, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Was that your voice?
That was our Lord and Master Satan in one of his many clever and I think this time really kind of fetching disguises, because you couldn't see him, but he was manifesting over here in that persona, and it was crazy. He was wearing like this gingham skirt, and he was just the cutest little thing. Oh, Jesus Christ, man! Oh, sorry, Satan, I didn't mean that. But anyway, he gets a little offended, when you talk up the competition too much.
Yeah,
you've got to watch out for him. He's all on fire and he's big.
That's the first time he's infiltrated my conversation.
Well, don't worry, he's a Christian construct.
So what about the Avons? Were they your first band?
No, but they weren't my worst band.
Okay.
They were it was an improvisational pop band, so it should have been really terrible, but instead it was only like kind of terrible. But it was terrible in a good way, kind of like The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He was Oz. Remember, he was known as Oz the Great and Terrible?
Yeah.
That's how the Yvonnes were. Yvonnes, the Great and Terrible.
Okay.
So we would make up our whole set from a list of song titles.
Oh, okay. And what about... Yeah.
That was the first thing I ever put out on record, though. I Walked with a Zombie, no relation to the Rocky Erickson tune. It was made up from song titles. once again. But that was one I watched, like 50 sci-fi shit movies, weird horror movies, obscure, black and white, famous monsters from Filmland,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's like a thing. But yeah, so that was the first thing. And John E. Precious, Dale B. Sorry, the drummer, and Rob Graves are all, well, let's say they're less than alive, okay? And we'll just leave it at that, so we don't have to say anything, untoward.
Right.
Anyway, it's not nice to speak. Or at all. But, who says we're nice? We're punk rock, goddammit.
Yeah. What other bands did you have in Arizona?
In Arizona, I was in, the first one was basically, I was in a bunch of top 40 bands because I sang and could imitate the people on the radio. And even though I was 12, for some reason I could sing like John Bonniwell and Alice Cooper and Mick Jagger and all, and Roger Daltrey back when he could sing.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, we did a lot of that kind of stuff. Proud Mary, we had to, but we did the Ike and Tina version.
Okay.
And the drummer and I would do the horn parts, we'd do harmony horn parts that we'd turn around so no one could see that that's what it was. We'd be like, and then I'd turn around to sing, "Let the good job in the city." It was fun.
Yeah.
And I grew these extremely large, cumbersome breasts just for that performance, and I was really upset when I found out how little we were getting paid. The breasts alone cost me hundreds of dollars.
Oh,
and then getting them actually installed by a professional.
Yeah.
That was $30 an hour. That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
In the 70s, Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I digress. I was in this terrible top 40 band. It was like this karaoke shit music. The guys, there were some good players in and out of the band. We were called Tube Steak. And we played at our high school and other high schools in the neighborhood. And I was still in grade school. And the other kids were older. But a couple of them were in jail for murder for the rest of their lives. And another one or two of them are dead for the rest of their lives because they were murdered by the other ones. in fact, another one, two of the guys that are in jail for the rest of their lives, one was the murderer and one was the contract killer. He paid the guy. He hired the guy, the gun for hire guy, who was another friend of ours from grade school. And so my one friend from grade school hired my other friend from grade school to kill my other friend from grade school. So that was weird. And everyone else turned out gay.
That's complicated.
I think I was the only one. Well, me and Mike Lang, he was the black person at our grade school.
Well,
actually, they had one in every grade. He was the one that was in my grade.
Okay.
He looked like Buddy Miles.
Oh, nice.
He was really cool. He came over to my house in Scottsdale, Arizona. The only black family in town then. It was the 60s. And he comes over and my mom opens the door and she's like, "Oh, you're a Negro. Why, we're not prejudiced against your people." And he's like looking at me, dying 1,000 deaths behind her, and I'm like, oh my god, let me just die right now, okay? But it was hilarious. He's a good drummer, actually. I don't know.
And then and when you went to L.A.
Wait, I'm almost done. I forgot I was supposed to tell you about the bands. Okay, so there was the top 40 bands. There was Tube Steak. There was George Jetson and the Amazing Futuristic Jets. That's a long story. It's like there was this booking agent guy, manager kind of guy that they were a partnership, him and this other guy, and then there's a lot of killing that goes on in the story. This guy killed his partner while we were working for them as one of the bands. And the funny thing is, they would give high schools and grade schools this catalog of bands they could hire that their agency represented, and whichever blow-dry mustache, white suit, like normal looking fucking post-hippie band, pre-punk post-hippie, with they picked, whatever one they picked, they would get us. And it was a band called the Jets, but we corrected it when we got there and said that it was a misprint. We're actually George Jetson and the Amazing Futuristic Jets. Thank you. And then I changed the words to all the songs to be about stupid, funny stuff that would amuse me, so I wouldn't just kill myself for doing this. Like, you make me feel like Manson. That was a popular one. So, yeah. There was some it was good times. You know, we brought TVs to watch the Sex Pistols on Saturday Night Live at a gig at a high school prom in like somewhere in central Arizona, and the people got really mad at us. You know, the faculty.
Yeah.
Because we were watching TV and playing these songs, and then they never even played. You know, as the history books tell us, it was Elvis fucking Costello who was just, I've never liked him because of that. I'm sure he's wonderful, and critics love him, but that really kind of bummed me out. I'm sure, you know, whatever. It wasn't his fault. I'm a lot more understanding about that shit now, but I'll tell you what, I was kind of pissed. Anyway, Elvis Costello, can you imagine? You want to see the Sex Pistols, and there's Pump It Up.
Yeah, that's
it's not that different, but it's different enough.
Yeah.
And not in a good way, but any sort.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, my God. So this friend of mine's coming over tonight with channel strips from fucking Abbey Road, BBC Studios, to see if my place is cool enough and my studio is cool enough and secure enough for him to leave all that stuff here and for me to use as I will. As long as he gets to use it, too. So that's going to be cool. So anyone that needs to record some shit, I produce records.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And MP3s and WAV files.
All
and
right.
Other disgusting waste products.
Anyone listening to this, you hear Don, hit him up.
Yeah. If you can hear me, you're probably already in hell. So nothing's going to help you now. Jesus is in here with us, by the way. I mean, you didn't know? Oh, please. You know, he's sponsoring the next ceremony dances for all the Palace Roses. But anyway, so I was in this band because I tried to be in the Consumers because their bass player got run over by a car on his 10-speed and was in the hospital. And so I went to a couple practices. They were my friends, and because I had moved back to Phoenix from San Francisco. That's how shitty San Francisco was for us. And Rob, who I'd met there and tried to start a band with, moved back to Detroit. That's how shitty San Francisco was. So, and we both moved back in with our parents. But anyway, my mom got me this house with these two guys, Dale B. Sorry, who played guitar, and John E. Precious, who played the drums in my Top 40 band and sang harmonies, like on the horn parts for primarily. But so we got a house, and she paid the rent. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I still haven't got my trust fund check. I didn't get that until February of 1978. But meanwhile, we started a band because when I showed up to Consumers practice, they hid from me behind the kitchen door. And I had brought a 4-track over to record and everything. And you know, I really did suck on bass, but still, that was kind of mean. I'm still kind of sad about it, really. But hold on. Okay, anyway. I'm okay. Really. I'm okay. Right. I'm sorry. Just give me a sec.
Take a minute. Take a minute.
So, yeah, sorry. Oh, man, I'm going to take a few of them. But anyway, yeah, so they hid from me. I get back in the car. I'm like, God damn it, put the 4-track in the back seat. You know, they were huge back then, giant reel-to-reel machine. And so Dale B. Sorry and I were driving in my car, and we drove back to our house. And on the way back, I'm like, you know what? Fuck these guys. They're great and all, and I understand, but you know, I want to have a band where we're all the same level of musician. So why don't you and Johnny Precious switch instruments so you'll suck as bad or as good as I do on bass? Mm-hmm. And so they did, and it worked. And so that band became the Liars, a name I never even liked at all. But you know, we did lie all the time about everything anyone ever asked us. We'd make up different stuff every time we'd open our mouths, just because we were so fucking bored. You know, it's Earth, for fuck's sake. We're alive, boredom. But anyway, you got to get through that, and then good stuff happens. Hopefully, someday. They say it. it will. And anyway, so we had this band, and we would open for the Consumers. We wrote a few songs, recorded 2 in the living room on a cassette machine live with Johnny Precious singing into one of the mics, and then the other mic basically picking up all the music. And it was pretty good. Just did it live. And I played it for Rob over the phone in Detroit, and he's like, I'll be right there. So he showed up with his blood red Les Paul and a black Fender P bass, which he just started playing. And he played rhythm guitar in the Liars. And then we changed the name with him in it. And we had a synth guy, so we could be like Pere Ubu. Because we loved Pere Ubu at the time. They only had the singles out. They hadn't done the album yet. But those singles are beyond reproach, you know? Those you're familiar with that shit, right? Of course. Yeah. Post everything time now, and everybody better know everything, or what the hell are we doing? Right. But yeah, and so then we changed the name to Crazy Homicide, sort of like it sounds, Krayzee Homicide. And it was the name of a Russian street gang, apparently, that was particularly vicious and composed of mental defectives and epileptics and paraplegics and schizophrenics and stuff. And they were supposed to be real mean sellers. So anyway, we named it that, which I thought sounded better than the Liars, but I don't think anyone's ever really agreed with me that either one is very good. I mean, I would agree with them about the first one, but I think Crazy Homicide's kind of cool. Anyway, so we had that band, and then we started this other band called the Yvonnes. Oh, there's Clark. But we started this other band, the Yvonnes, and it was the same people. And then we did a session of songs with, like, I Walked with a Zombie being one of them. Oh, shit. And I'm going to have to call Clark back in a minute. Do you know Clark's number? Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. But anyway, I Walked with a Zombie was the song that we ended up recording. We did a few. We did one called Boom Boom Out Go the Poodles, and one called I'm Your Earwig Baby. Earwigs are really prevalent in Arizona. There's a lot of earwigs and scorpions too. You can wake up with a scorpion in your shoe and an earwig in your ear. But what Clark's number disappeared? Hold on. And okay, who's this? Hold on a second. I'm doing some boring thing having to do with Motherbox, my device.
Okay.
We're calling back Clark. Clark's really great. Do you know Clark of Clark and the Himself? She's a one trans band.
I don't think so.
She's like if Hazel Adkins was Hazel Adkins, and she plays drums, guitar, and vocals. In fact, she can do 2 vocal parts at once because she's a trained Tuvan throat singer, so she can hit multiple notes at the same time. Wow.
I'll check that out.
We're probably going to try to have her play synth and do backing vocals and rhythm guitar and hammered satin. That's really blowing up right now. But anyway, let's go back to the past, shall we? Not to the future just yet. Soon. But so there we were in Stupid Phoenix, and we had the Yvonnes, and we had the Crazy Homicide, and the Consumers they had like 40 or 50 great songs. We had 3 okay songs. But you know, we just go make a bunch of noise and stuff when we play with them. And like we get like 10, 15 people at the shows, and then there was this other band that showed up, and I didn't really play drums yet. I was like, do they need a bass player? They were younger people out in on the other side of town that practiced in a storage locker, in one of those big storage locker plazas, you know. And, pretty glamorous. And so I'm like, do they need a bass player? No, they got that. How about a guitar player? No, they got that. How about a singer? No, they got that too. Well, they need a drummer? Yeah, they do actually. I'm like, shit, can I borrow your drum set? And like, fuck no, not after what you did to it last time you tried to play it. And I'm like, shit, you got any drums? And so I borrowed a floor tom and held it between my knees, a kick drum, and a cymbal that was broken, and there was like another floor tom that I could use as a floor tom, and that was it. And a pedal, bass pedal, the kick drum pedal, excuse me. And I guess I got the audition. These kids were younger than me. I was like 18 or 19, No, I was 20 almost. I was an old man by then. And so I started playing with the Exterminators. They were amazing. The guitar player was 16. His name was Buzzy Murder. And the singer's name was Johnny Macho. Everyone was a Johnny something right then. It was the beginning of punk. Forgive us. But he would wear a house dress, like a flower print house dress, and combat boots, and do his lipstick way outside the lines. Not like lip liner, but like Psycho, you know?
Yeah.
And he'd have stubble all over his face. He looked kind of like Fred Flintstone in drag, in shitty drag. And we'd play at this biker bar called the Zoo. And, you know, real bikers would go there and stuff and be there, and hardly anyone else would go. And they weren't there to see us, trust me. And so, but Johnny Macho would come out and we'd start the song. Basically, we sounded like the Raw Power album played on 45.
Okay.
And it was pretty good. And Rob ended up playing bass because the bass player quit and Rob took over. So that was the first band he and I were in together, playing the instruments that we were most known for playing. Weird, right? Anyway. Yeah. So there was that. So we were in all the bands, you know, basically. We made up other little weird bands, you know, that didn't really exist. But only like 15 people would go to the shows, and that was basically the bands and 3 of our friends, like I guess 1 per each band.
Mm-hmm.
It was really weird. So we were glad to get my trust fund check and get the hell out of there. And then I accidentally stole a drum set from a friend of mine. And it was in his backyard, and I was gonna pay him, but then I don't know, I got all wrapped up in the punk rock, you know, happens. Right. And then it's a demanding mistress. But we moved to L.A. And all our bands broke up, and everyone ended up joining the Feeders. Except the Consumers didn't break up. They kept going, but their drummer, that was so good. Get the Consumers album. It's on In the Red Records. It was recorded in 77, and it kicks ass on almost any other punk thing. Just like that drummer. I tried to duplicate his style because, you know, we had Paul Cutler in 45 Grave, and so we got all the Consumers songs, or most of them. Yeah. And I could never play like that guy. He was so good. He was like this nebbishy, like high school, like jazz band geek, you know, but man, could he play drums? He just had the magic feel. But listen to that album if you can. It's got like 8 songs on it. It's pretty short. Cool. But it's so good. From Phoenix, 78, 77. It was released in 78, I guess. But anyway, well, no, actually it was never released until like the fucking 90s on In the Red Records. But that's when it was done. We all had cassettes of it. All right. But anyway, so that's all that, and then we moved here. Rob joined the Bags. You know, I joined the Germs. I called them up like a couple weeks before and told them, after I'd been playing with the Exterminators for a couple of weeks on drums, I said, hey, I heard you guys needed a drummer. I'm skipping a lot of stuff, but, you know, you can read my damn book, Lexicon Devil. I try not to talk about myself in it, actually, so that's why I got it all here ready to go. It just spills out when you give me permission to start, so, you know, you got to watch that sort of thing. Yeah. Don't let me get going. It'll never stop.
It's a great book. I read the book.
It is a good book. Thank you. And I wrote it. Brendan Mullen did not write that book. He did write a couple of things, like the things about record label money shit and crap like that music biz stuff that nobody cares about, you know, except nerds that are the wrong kind of nerd. I don't know. He was a good guy, but man, he and Adam Parsley kind of done me wrong with the credit stealing. You know, but that is a good book. It's I think it's more evocative of the time and the place and the whole shooting match than the much longer and more in-depth thing that was about everything in the LA punk scene that we got the neutron bomb.
Yeah,
that was sort of like a Please Kill Me that wasn't, you know, as funny.
Right, yeah.
And the LA people were way funnier than the New York people, or at least as funny, at least. Yeah. You know, Jesus. And it all came from Bowie, of course.
Yeah. What was your first impression of Darby Crash?
I was talking to him on the phone. I called those guys up and said, hey, my name's Don Bolles. And that wasn't my real name. It's what I was using at the time, though. But and it stuck, unfortunately. I hate that name. Stupid. No, it's the real Don Bolles was the hero, though. Anyway, you can read up on the Wikipedia there. But Darby is one of the weirdest people I ever spoke with because you know, have you ever heard the Forming single?
I think so. Yeah. I have.
And the B side of that, the Sex Boy that was recorded at the filming for Up in Smoke, the Cheech and Chong movie that had the punk bands in it.
Yeah.
77.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can, you know, the music is drowned out by like the glasses, you know, bumping around and ice cubes and people throwing things and yelling, "He's got peanut butter!"
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It sounds like, it kind of reminds me of the B side of the Throbbing Gristle United single that came out close to the same time, you know, in a weird way. But anyway, like, so I listened to that thing, right? And I'm like, I could play these drum parts in my sleep. I mean, they're good drum parts. Pat wrote them. He didn't know how to play drums, and he taught them to Becky Barton, who was gonorrhea, and she didn't know how to play drums either. But there she was having to do it because Belinda didn't want to, and she got Becky to do it. And Becky had to ask her grandma for a drum set, and she told her grandma that she had leukemia. Her grandma would feel like sorry for her and buy her a drum set, and it worked. So there's that thing, right? And so I'm thinking, well, I could do this in my sleep.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I come to L.A. with Rob, and he's, you know, we go to we got here on the night of the Elks Lodge shows where that were the masks. There was like a mask benefit because they had just shut the mask down and people were trying to figure out what to do. You know, Brendan was cool. He had the mask and he really was helpful, you know, when he wasn't like taking your first author credit on a book you wrote. But anyway, and taking your stuff to use in his fucking book that I also didn't get credit for writing. That's like a lot of the same stuff from my book, and a lot of the stuff that we didn't use in my book ended up in his book that I did. Okay. But anyway, I don't want to be bitter about it. I'm glad that Lexicon Devil exists. It took me 5 years to write and about 6 hours to read.
Oh wow! Okay.
But it's a good book. I wanted to make it like No One Here Gets Out Alive or something, you know, some crazy thing, because there's that much information in the world somewhere, but no one ever wants to talk about the germs. Which I think is kind of flattering. It's sacred to people, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. And what was early germs practice like?
Well, it was the early ones were interesting because they gave me a cassette of them practicing with Nikki Beat, and the songs were so slow. Like what is it's Let's Pretend. You know, that one? That was like half speed, maybe, if that.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, Nicky was a good drummer, but he played at a very steady and even, you know, like, and sort of slow tempo. And that, my friend, is the sound of an iPhone sitting on a tube amp. So I was gonna play you the thing really quick, how it sounded. Like, I guess. That's how slow it was.
Wow.
So the early
sounds
German
cool though.
So yeah, it sounded cool. You know, I love the pre-Don Bolles Germs just as much as I love the Don Bolles Germs. It was like, well, I have to love those because I'm stuck with them. They live on me and in me. But anyway, yeah, it was good. But Pat and Darby were just a mystery to me. I talked to him on the phone, like Darby, for 2 hours, and he's like, so, you know, the other night I went to a party at the Argyle Castle, and Rick Wilder was getting head from Black Randy in the bushes out in front. And I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. Who are they? And he goes, and then he just started telling me about what these other people were doing, you know, like that I didn't know and I'd never heard of. And then Pat, you know, I was asking, so what kind of music do you guys like? Are you into like Faust, and I was really into krautrock and like Stockhausen kind of avant-garde noise. I'm like, you like avant noise stuff like Stockhausen? Like what? And I'm Throbbing Gristle. No, what's that? Well, he was in Roxy Music, right? Yeah. Well, I go, what's not really? I guess sort of. And I go, what do you like? And Pat goes, I like Queen, and Yes, and David Bowie. And I'm like, that's pretty funny. Really? He goes, yeah. Why? Really? And I go, okay. He goes, Steve Howe's like my favorite guitar player because doesn't have a trace of blues in his style. And I had to agree with him there. I liked that about Steve Howe.
Yeah.
He wasn't just white. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was like transparent. It was crazy. And Pat was sort of I guess you would call it an octoroon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess it was an octoroon or something. And so he never really identified with the darker portions of his lineage so much. His dad was like this. He was whiter than white too. He was an old Jewish guy from Germany.
Yeah.
Pat's real name, as you know, is Georg Rusenberg.
Oh, okay.
But so Darby, I go, well, what music do you like? Because these guys are the weirdest thing ever. And they seemed the most normal people ever. It's like I couldn't even put it together that this could be real. That record could come from these people that like these really normal things. Some of them I liked too, but they were normal.
Yeah.
They didn't got anything fucked up or weird or noisy or anything, and they were doing what they did. It's like the Shags thought they were normal.
I mean, Throbbing Gristle was weirder than all that, for sure.
Yeah, it was darker and more. I don't know. I guess it was weird, but the Germs were weird because they weren't setting out to be weird. They were weird. They were just as weird as anything, and they thought they were being normal. That's what's really amazing about the Germs, at first, anyway. But they, I just wish there was a recording of the Orpheum show where they got physically removed from the stage. They were physically thrown and kicked off stage along with their instruments.
Wow, yeah, that's a trip.
My favorite thing about them is when the early Germs is when they were at the in-store the Damned were doing at Bomp Records in the Valley before this Orpheum show, and that's when they got the gig. The Weirdos offered them an opening spot at the Orpheum.
Oh, okay.
And they were like doing things like spitting giant loogies. Like one of them would be on the ground like with their mouth open, and then the other one would just hang this giant loogie and then just drool it into their mouth.
So that's what early Germs shows were like.
They were kind of food fights and insult battles and noise, basically. Yeah. It was kind of performance art. In fact, Pat and I were talking the other day about how they used to get booked. People were very confused. They thought it was performance art and not even like a rock band, really. They thought it was like performance art, and these guys were art students or something. Because the Weirdos actually were.
Yeah, the Weirdos were. For sure.
But they didn't want Nicky playing with the Germs anymore, and so I show up and then it's different. I can't play slow and I can't play great. Nicky did give me a couple of lessons.
Oh, okay.
Like he taught me how to play Life of Crime by the Weirdos and Lexicon Devil and Circle One.
Oh, nice.
And then I told him apparently this is what Nicky said. I forgot about this, but Nicky said, remember when you said you couldn't take lessons from me anymore? And I go, I did. And he goes, yeah, you said that you were going to get too good and it wouldn't be punk.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, wow, sometimes I think I'm pretty cool. That was okay.
What about craziest thing you saw Darby do on stage?
That's in a video. It's not that crazy. It's just weird. He lights a matchstick on fire and then sticks it in his mouth and then like rolls his eyes and shrugs and throws it onto the stage when it like doesn't really do anything exciting.
Oh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things though involved Mike Muir. That appearance that Mike Muir made on the Starwood recording is just priceless. From Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah, Mike.
And he gets up on the stage. I'm sure you've heard this spiel before if you've listened to the What We Do Is Secret EP. He's like, look at my nose. Look at it. This guy comes up and goes like this and says hippie. And then he flashed on my nose. And then Darby, this is the best thing ever. Darby's like, you can hear him, it was an accident. And then Mike Muir, it wasn't no accident. We know who this guy is, and we know who he's at. And when he comes, I forget this one, but and when he comes back, we're gonna get his ass. That's like we do the song. I don't know. It was pretty hilarious. Darby, man. If I wasn't impressed with Darby for other things and before that, I would have been fucking falling over with impressness at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it was an accident. You're a genius.
That's pretty good.
It really was cool. I don't care. He kicked me out of the band to get his cute little skater boyfriend that was straight anyway, and, in the band playing drums. Couldn't kick Pat or Lorna out. I understood. It had to be the new guy.
Yeah.
So they tried to, he goes, show Robbie the song. He's a germ. And that Amber lady that was Darby's manager, who got him to do the Darby Crash Band, which was very ill-conceived thing. I feel kind of, I don't know. They had a couple good songs, but I mean, that's only because Darby threw me out of the band. And then when he goes, show Robbie the song, he's a germ. And Amber, the manager lady that was kind of pretty independently wealthy, she used to buy Darby all his heroin all the time and booze. And oh my God, heroin booze Darby was not nearly as cool as acid Darby. Acid Darby was a genius, like a king of kings, lord of lords, and super fun and brilliant at all times. But fucking heroin and booze Darby made some dumbass decisions. Even though it was still Darby, there was the behind the scenes stuff wasn't nearly as good. Neither was the performance. Darby Crash Band was just kind of not that good. They got Pat because they tried out like 14 guitar players and none of them could do it. Even the slow, shitty way they were doing the songs. But Beyond Hurt, Beyond Help was good. And there was, what was that other one? You probably know. The other Darby Crash Band song?
No, I mean,
You don't remember it? Come on, help us out here, kids. Telepath the name of that song to me. Beyond Hurt, Beyond Help, and some other fucking, goddamn, I don't know, I forget. We did a lot of songs when we got back together with Shane West. But anyway, so at practice, we started it's sad. And Rob Henley couldn't play drums at all, by the way. And Amber had bought him this drum set, and Pat and Lorna are trying to play the songs with him. They're like, we are not going back to the pre-dawn days, And Lorna says, yeah, fuck this, I quit, because Rob just could not do it. Bless his little heart,
Did you guys
see him all the time driving by with these like Fiorucci looking chicks in their parents' Ferrari, like in Hollywood.
Oh man, did you guys stage a lot? Or?
What?
Did you fight on stage a lot?
We never fought. I never heard Darby raise his voice in anger the whole time I knew him. Like couple times when he's drunk, he's had to yell because they shut the PA off, and he's going, "They're not going to let us play. Do damage." I guess that's kind of raising his voice in anger, but that was righteous indignation. That wasn't even regular anger, Yeah.
Did you get a germs burn or?
Hell no, that would hurt.
Yeah.
Life is pain enough,
Yeah. What about who's Richie Dagger?
Darby. They all are. Billy Druid, the Dragon Lady.
Yeah.
Richie Dagger. All of them.
What you got any good stories about the plunger pit?
No good ones. just evil ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I named it that, the plunger pit. But to me it just made sense. We had a whole vocabulary in Phoenix because us and the weirdos that we hung out with. We had a radio station called K-Dill, named after a book called Dildo Torture by Arthur Fox. A fine, children's classic. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm. Hello?
I'm
Hello?
telling you. Hi, there you are. Hey,
Okay.
my friend's here with the Abbey Road channel strips. So I'm going to deal with that for a minute. It's not really much dealing. We just have to look at the things and whatever. Can I call you back in a few minutes? Or
Yeah.
in the
Call
middle
me
of
back.
everything? Or?
Yeah, you can call me back.
All right, I will, too. I mean, if you want. So give me a little bit. And also, I got to rest my voice. I'm just going to use, sign language, to communicate with my friend.
Okay.
So I can save up my vocal powers for the
All right.
part of the interview.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Well, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, there we go. I got you.
Yay.
All right, cool. So, yeah, I think we left off where you had any stories about the plunger pit.
Yeah, well, we went there after driving from Phoenix to change into our punk gear.
Uh-huh.
I had these new pants that I got at a thrift store that looked like a pair that John Denny and the Weirdos wore in a picture I saw.
Oh, cool, yeah. Nice.
And
yeah.
And then we went to the Elks Lodge, and all the bands were playing, and it was the mask benefit, and it was 2 days of all the stuff. Like every band, really. I don't think there's any bands of early LA punk that didn't play at that.
Oh, right on.
Then I saw the Germs, and I'm like, whoa, the Nikki Beat. It wasn't like the Donna Rhea stuff, that I'd heard, because they hadn't done Lexicon Devil yet. So all I had to go on was forming. So I thought it was going to be super easy.
Yeah.
To play the drums. I'd only been playing a couple of months, but I still don't really play drums, but I can play songs.
Yeah. And the mask. Which place was crazier, the mask or the plunger pit?
Well, the plunger pit was just where those 4 girls lived.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trudy, and Helen, was it Helen Killer that lived there, I think? No, Mary Rat lived there, and Trixie.
Yeah.
I had a weird sort of drunken affair one night with Trixie, and I don't know. I don't think anything really happened. I think we both passed out before it could get, too smelly or anything.
Yeah.
Sex wasn't cool then, it's like it was something that you had to be kind of a little ashamed of, and you'd sort of sneak off into a closet with some girl,
Yeah.
But you wouldn't it wasn't like glam, Glam was like, that was a lot of what it was about, in a way.
Yeah.
But punk wasn't about sex. Punk was better than sex, so it's like you didn't really need it, but it was still kind of cool every now and then.
And what about Vox Pop? What was that all about?
Well, that was never cool. No, it was a pretty crazy band. I mean, we took drugs and got really drunken to where even I couldn't play very, very well. And I didn't play that well anyway. I played guitar in that band. The guy from the Silver Chalice, another band I played in, so did Rob. Rob played bass for a while. Silver Chalice. Yeah, but I was I don't know. But Vox Pop was kind of a mess. And where I was going with that is Terry Churchman, who was a guitar player in Silver Chalice, he built my amplifiers. Like basically, you could buy pre-CBS Fender Bassman amp heads, tube and amp heads with the black face, all day long for like $100 or less. $50, $100 for what today would be pretty boutiquey, like a black face Fender Bassman amp, because that's what the Marshall was based on. Yeah. Then Jim Marshall modified them, a Fender Bassman. Basically put a master volume on it and some more powerful power tubes.
Yeah.
And voila, there's the Marshall. Pretty much. And then Eddie Van Halen, made the 5150, which is an amp that Pat and I both favor. He turned me on to it when we were doing the Shane stuff. The Shane years.
Yeah.
But, he was good. We just couldn't let him talk between songs. But he sang that shit great, better than Darby did because he sang in the mic. But it was the same thing that Darby would have done had he, like, you know how the Lexicon Devil single was different from, the album? And it was also different from Forming. It's definitely a progression that's easy, it goes in increments to the growletto, he had at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, it sounds. He always sounded like someone. Well, at first he sounded like a whiny kid from West L.A. that was weird and saying genius weird things. Yeah. And then the B side of that record was just unimaginable. It was like, the sounds of a guy sticking a microphone into a jar of peanut butter and then glasses tinkling, ice in the glasses, people yelling and freaking out, and it's all this muddy thing. It's like someone put Vaseline over the microphone, on the tiny mono cassette machine it was recorded on in the back of the Roxy from the stage. It's kind of like amazing. Yeah. It was kind of like Throbbing Gristle, but that's what I was saying before. Those guys are the weirdest people I'd ever talked to because they didn't care about that stuff. They didn't like experimental weird music, really, and they didn't like they'd never heard of Vandergraaf Generator, who I loved, a psychedelic, weird fucking prog band that was really super dark and LSD-y, if a bit over dramatic at times. Mm-hmm. They were really great, though. That's where I got all my drumming style from, or at least a lot of it. I'd say that and Ainsley Dunbar and maybe Bill Ward. And, that's wwhere I got most of the things back then. But and the Roxy music guy, Paul Thompson, you never really think about him, but he got the job done in style. Yeah. And Ringo was pretty fucking good, too, now that I think about it. I guess there's been some good drummers in the world.
Chris, I was just talking to Chris D of the Flesh Eaters, and he said how intelligent Darby was.
Oh, yeah, he was beyond intelligent. I mean, this guy was like a once in a generation kind of mind, and everything. Really amazing person. Yeah. There's a reason people worship him because they couldn't help it.
Right.
He didn't like demand it, but he thought it was funny when it happened because he was really a sweet, humble, shy guy that was fucking brilliant as fuck. Right. You'd see him talking to Lorna, like whispering in Lorna's ear at a party in the corner, holding an old English 800, and just whispering in Lorna's ear, and Lorna's just like listening intently and cracking up laughing and like, ah! That was Darby.
Yeah.
And like I never heard him raise his voice in anger, except like a couple of times he would be like telling people to do damage when they wouldn't let us play, like at this club, the Great Gatsby's.
Oh, yeah.
There was this funny thing with that tape. Someone taped it, and we never got to play. But people's voices are all on it. The whole scene where they're, like, shutting us down and not allowing us to play, and then the crowd's getting really angry because they came there to see us. Uh-huh. Then Darby's like, they're not letting us play. Do damage. But it's like, that was pretty much it, but... because it was fucked, the whole scene. But then, so on this tape, the voices keep escalating, and it gets more and more bad vibey as it goes. It's like it gets more and more hostile and louder and more chaotic and more like fighting, very fighty. And it makes you nervous and makes you want to, fight or flight, probably fight.
Right.
And so, I got the idea actually of playing it while we were playing subliminally and see if it affected the people and made them violent, because these people were pretty sedate the whole night for the most part, and they weren't really doing much, and so Pat said no, actually, because we knew about subliminal weird shit. We lived through the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and now. But he said no, he goes, if it works like, you think it will, I don't think it's a good idea to put it on while we're on stage. Let's do it after we're on stage, after we leave the stage. Yeah. I'm like, that seems to be the sensible course of action. Usually I would disagree, but I think maybe so. And so it was at the Olympic Auditorium where when we played with Suicidal Tendencies. One of the first big show we did in LA was Shane.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. Suicidal Tendencies played, and some version of Flipper.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. So so we put that tape on, and you couldn't really tell what was going on. It almost didn't sound like there was any music on, because there wasn't. There was this tape of people shouting at each other. They're talking angrily, and then it gets more and more chaotic and louder and more violent sounding and hostile, and keeps building and building but it's still subliminal. I bet to most people they thought it was real, that those vibes were coming from the room. And so people started fighting, and I think somebody got stabbed or something. Yeah. And it was just like suddenly this docile crowd turned into this insane, with no band on the stage, nothing going on. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it works just like I thought it was going to. Tat thought so too when he thought about it. He's like, oh, that would be really funny. But no, not while we're on. So after we're on, okay, I want to get out. I don't want to be in there if it's like we think, And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And that worked. It works too well. It was really crazy, because I really do think somebody got stabbed in the crowd, that because of that shit. Maybe, I hope not, but we didn't intend it to go quite that far, of course. But
did it happen at the Starwood a lot too? Starwood.
Yeah. What about it?
Did that happen at the Starwood a lot?
No. It's what's sad. The Starwood was where the Darby Craft Band played a couple of shows, or at least one.
Yeah.
And it was kind of not the best thing. It was like Germs songs played too slow by the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it was boring. And that had never happened with the Germs. We were never, ever for 1 second boring. Right. It might have been. It could have been anything. We could have been standing up there doing nothing, and it wouldn't have been boring.
Yeah.
There was just something in the vibes in those rooms. The people, they definitely got their money's worth out of that band. It was like a shamanic, fucking psychedelic insanity ritual, like a dervish ceremony.
Yeah.
Except without the religion. It was Darby and them, and it was more them than Darby, really. Darby was just sort of the catalyst, but he was one of those, like I said, those once in a fucking generation or two things, like a Jesus or like something like that. And he didn't even try, though. Really, he just had to accept it, and he would just do funny things like he would just walk up to somebody that had this really nice, elaborate, the battle jacket, the leather jacket,
mm-hmm.
and decorated nice. Then he goes, hey, can I have that? And they go, okay. Give it to him. He'd walk away, thanks, and he'd laugh.
So he was like a cult.
He didn't do it in a mean way. He just did it because he couldn't believe that people would do that. And so he did that more. And so I started doing stuff like that too. Whenever I wanted something that somebody else had, I would be, can I have that?
Yeah.
Please. And they'd be yes.
Yeah.
Almost every time, And if you really know you're going to get it from them, probably, then you better be sure about asking, because you'll get it. If it's something you don't really want, then you're still going to get it.
Right. Do you actually have Darby's Iron Cross?
Not anymore. I mean, I do somewhere, but I don't wear it.
Oh, okay.
Anymore. You can't wear that shit anymore. It's terrible, because it's cool looking stuff, and the reason that it's good to wear is the same reason that, say, some guy that lives in the jungle and has to worry about leopards and stuff like that would wear a leopard tooth. It's a dangerous, deadly, evil thing to him, and he needs a vaccination of that evil as the talisman, a part of that evil thing that could kill him and is horrible. And you want to think about it when you're out, so you look at this tooth, you go, fuck, I don't want that in me coming from a thing with force behind it, I don't know, but so it's that kind of thing. It had that kind of mojo, and the bikers wore that stuff. In my stupid generation, I hate that we're all separate that way. It really is tough keeping current with cultural indices and with tropes. Modern memes and tropes are they come along pretty fast and furious. And I'm elderly. I'm a slow feller. I like the good old ways and the good old days. And their life is simple. But still, I I don't know. It's tough keeping relevant.
Yeah.
What about, couldn't do it by trying. You know what I mean? I think the secret is just fucking give people something that doesn't suck, and have quality control, and consider that, you know, there's enough shit music and enough shit art in the world that we don't need more of that at all. And I think people know this intuitively. And so when something that isn't total shit comes along, they're like, this is a gift, thank you. And if it's the style that person already likes, well, hallelujah, their life is great.
Yeah. But
you know, and so people like that. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Did you believe in the whole Circle One thing?
I didn't even know what that was.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I sort of had of course it meant, you know, like our circle, and then they were vaguely, I mean, it wasn't like Slipknot or anything, like, hey, man, we're all family, we're the Juggalo family, you know. It wasn't cornball like that, but it could have been if we would have said the things that were true, but, you know, there's a lot of true things, and if you don't say any of the dumb ones, then maybe you'll have a more badass experience. So will everyone else. So I don't know. I think it's really important to confuse people and to entertain them and to make them have fucking fun, and maybe teach them something here and there, as long as it's not too, you know, pedantic.
Yeah.
And if they learned anything from Darby, I don't think that it was conscious. I think they got this thing because it was like, it was beneath and beyond consciousness what happened at those shows, and it's really hard to explain. It's not like, oh, you should have been there. There were such great musicians. Well, we were okay. Pat was really good. I was okay, if you like that kind of thing, and apparently a lot of people do. So, yeah, sure, I was okay. But it was like, because I worked at it. I fucking sweated a lot. I had asthma. It was tough to play those shows, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
Why wasn't I born in a time when no one cared about really super hard, fast music? Why? So much work could have been avoided, and I could have been a slacker.
Yeah. Do you know who invented the circle? Was it Darby?
I think it was Pythagoras.
The blue circle. Sounds about right.
I don't know. Well, Darby's thing for some reason was, you know, the Germs symbol was a circle, a blue circle, on a black background, and we had armbands like that. We've used it on things, you know, and when Bob Biggs came up with this brilliant idea when we were signed to Slash Records to do the first LA Punk album, and then the next one was the X album, and we'd go to Slash Records, and there'd be boxes of the X album and the Germs album, and we'd play tic-tac-toe on the floor with the X album and the Germs album.
Yeah.
It was pretty hilarious.
That's funny. What kind of drugs fueled Vox Pop? MDMA?
We didn't have MDMA. We had MDA. No M. And it was really great.
MDA, all right.
We had this guy that was a Germs fan. He ripped off a drug dealer or something, and then killed some guy that tried to that was I don't know, trying to kill him. He took the knife away from him. I guess the problem was that he stabbed him like 64 times.
Oh, what was his name?
Reggie Menthol.
Yeah, I used to talk to Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie's a good guy.
He lives on Treasure Island.
Don't let him stab you. He'll get carried away. But you know, whatever. He's a great guy. Everyone's got their quirks, right?
Yeah,
he's a little stabby. You know, he's still rad.
Yeah.
And he had MDA, so it's like whatever, it's worth it.
Yeah. It's
a little stabby when it comes to MDA.
Yeah.
But that stuff was really good. It was like the perfect combination between the best speed and the best acid, except neither one was too prevalent or too much. It's just really a great thing. It was one of the first of the research chemicals that I had done. Well, I guess I tried some other weird LSD, SPP hybrid once, and I'd done PCP a couple of times. I smoked a few Germs. That's how I ended up with dying of cancer, actually.
Angel dust.
Well, yeah, I smoked it a couple of times when I lived here. Like one time when I moved here, for some reason, people were talking about how there might be a rivalry between me and Cliff Hanger, who was the the last Germs drummer that was actually in the band before Nicky took over as a temporary, and then I came in. But that couldn't have been really farther from the truth, because Cliff and I liked each other. I thought he was cool. He was the Quaalude dealer in the Rainbow parking lot, and he lived right above the Rainbow in the Roxy. Yeah. And I went up to his place one time, and that was back when PCP was the bath salts of the day, you know, and then people like biting each other's noses off and killing each other for no reason because they smoked this PCP. And so we passed this. I got these Germs when we went up to his room, and he had a .45 automatic that was a full clip. And we passed the joint and the gun to each other every minute, you know, pick a couple of tokes off the thing, pointed the gun at the other guy, and then handed it to him. And the PCP joint, you know, the Sherm, as they called it in the urban slang of the day. But yeah.
Yeah, that was big.
Fun. But we just thought it was funny. And by the way, neither of us died that day, not even once.
Yeah, and the Feeders covered your songs, right?
Well, yeah. Well, what happened was when Rob and I left Phoenix, the Exterminators broke up because there went the bass player and the drummer, and Doug went with me too. Doug Clark. He came here too, and he moved into my apartment with me.
Okay.
He was the guy that had that band Mighty Sphincter after the Exterminators.
Okay.
And he was 16 when he was in our band. And I was just talking to someone about this today. It's kind of tragic what happened to him. So he moved here with me, like just shortly after Rob and I came here. He took a bus or something and got here, and to Hollywood anyway, not in Huntington Park. But he moved into my room, and it was fine. I had 2 beds in there. It was cool, and he was a good guitar player. He really crazy, and he and Rob and I were going to have a band. And like one day, the Mask had been shut down as a venue, but they still had shows as private parties sometimes, and it was a rehearsal space during the day. The Controllers used to play there. You know, and I'd jam Stooges songs with them in the daytime because I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have a job or something. I still had a lot of that trust fund check because the apartments at the Canterbury then, mine was $130 a month. And it was a bachelor apartment, but it was plenty big for me.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a crazy place. But anyway, I had a 3rd floor apartment, and $130. Rob lived there too, and so did Nikki Beat and Alice Bagg. They lived together on the 4th floor, and then Trudy and KK lived there together. They were already a couple. I mean, they still are, pretty much. Even though I believe they see other people and various other hallucinations. I hope, anyway. You know, what kind of life is it without hallucinations? I ask you. But so the. What the hell? Before I started hallucinating, I was talking about some fucking stupid thing. Who?
The Feeders.
Oh, yeah, the Feeders. Okay. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for keeping me on point. Okay. So the Feeders. Yes, well, you know, Frank Discussion, whose real name was Cameron Howard, he was the little brother of one of the crew of space rockers that had a few different bands like Albic Triz and Zealism. His brother was Kurt Howard, who was in a bunch of these bands and the space rock bands, and they all played Dan Electros, and you know they liked Captain Beefheart, like Troutmass Replica, and they loved Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd, you know, and they loved King Crimson. And so they were amazing, you know, like Albic Triz was weird as fuck, and so was Zealism. They were both really, really weird. And then there was the Meatloaf Cigarettes and Speed Orchestra. They weren't space rock exactly, but they were really good. And they made up all the songs on the spot and on a live cassette they did in Gary Russell, the guitar player's bedroom. But anyway, so Cameron Howard, little brother of one of the space rockers that actually helped steer me towards vegetarianism. And they always had really good weed, too, by the way. But so I became a vegetarian because these guys let me know in no uncertain terms that they thought I was an idiot for continuing to eat meat when it was obvious that it's not a good idea. And I finally, because it's not easy when you're a teenager and you've got other things like drugs to think about to manicure your diet in any kind of meaningful way. But that's what I did, because these guys were really fucking impressive to me. They were a weird group of people that'll never be really properly documented, but whatever. Here, I can talk about them for a minute, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, so that was his big brother. But Cameron Howard, he didn't really do anything like that. He was like into martial arts, though. And he and I hitchhiked. He was a funny, weird guy. He and I hitchhiked to Sacramento when Squeaky Fromm was on trial. For the gun, President Ford and stuff. And we hung out with Sandra Good and not Squeaky because she was in jail, but we got to see her and stuff. Yeah. And then, but Sandra Good and some other later Manson girls and the guy were living at this apartment and in Sacramento near the courthouse, because Sandra was there every day passing out Manson literature in front of it. And so we hung out with Sandra Good and went back to her place with her, and we had to crawl through this thing that said condemned and stuff, and go up these stairs that were boarded up, but it wasn't really. You could move the boards, and go up the stairs, and then they lived on the second floor, and they had a little shitty Caliphone, kind of audio visual department at your grade school record player, and they only had 3 records, which I thought was a little bit noteworthy. And that was, they had Magical Mystery Tour, the White Album, and the Charles Manson album, oddly enough.
That was it.
Yeah, and they gave me a Squeaky Fromm poster that she had made, 2 of them, with swastikas on them. Wow. A big swastika, and it said, "You need a man, son." Wow. And there was another one that said, "Man's son is mad at Nick's son." Because Nixon had pronounced Manson guilty before the trial was even partly through. So
did you ever
he was right to be mad.
Did you ever talk to Charlie?
Yeah, I did it on the phone a couple times.
Yeah, okay.
See, my roommate was a Manson archivist, for a while. I used to do swap meets with him. We'd go get, stuff at shitty swap meets like the Rhodium, in Redondo Beach, and then we'd bring it up to the Rose Bowl and sell the stuff at swanky vintage prices.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we made our living. Me and John Ace Nihil. It stood for that was short for Archives of Aesthetic Nihilism. Yeah. Nihil, the name of the magazine that Dinah Cancer, when she was Mary Sims, worked for.
Oh, okay.
So did I tell you how I ended up living there?
No.
I didn't. Okay. Well, it was after I smoked PCP for the first time, and I was in the Canterbury, and I went up to Michael Smith or Michael. I don't know, but he had a band. Rob and I made a list of 200 band names, and we passed it around to our friends when we moved to LA. All the punks, and and some of them got used. A lot of them actually. It's pretty cool. But we just kept thinking of so many of them. We wrote them all down one day. Yeah. And people called their bands the Extremes. That was one of them. There were some other ones. I don't know. But so I guess I called her up because I'd gotten her number when she came to interview me, because the Consumers kicked their singer out, David Wiley, on stage at the Whiskey, basically, and beat him up on stage while they were playing. And then some of them stayed here. Some of them moved back to L.A. The singer, I was livid about this. And so they got me to sing, the remaining Consumers, and they got Rob Graves to play bass. So she came to interview the Consumers at the Canterbury. The guy was this black community activist guy, and he was a guy who would rent to people with blue hair, and nobody else really would at the time. Not even in fucking seedy Hollywood, where this was Cherokee and Yucca. So this girl shows up, and she's the photographer, and she showed up with this other girl. They were from Fairfax High School. Came by, and they had a little punk zine called Nihil. And this girl had blue hair, and she was so gorgeous. Anyway, She gave me the number, and the consumers, we just gave it up because, I don't know, it just didn't seem that great. And so those guys went back to Phoenix, and I stayed here, and Rob stayed here. And I did smoke PCP like the next day or something after I got Mary's number, and I called her up, and I don't remember this very well, but she remembered it very well. I just said, B-head, 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 B-head. You know, I just said B-head in every possible way for 2 hours. And then next thing I know, I was living with her and her aunt and her mom. I don't know what, I mean, make of that what you will. Her aunt and her mom didn't want her going out with me because my real name, my ID name, my slave name, is Italian. And so, you know, it's actually a better, cooler, flashier sounding name than Don Bolles. But Don Bolles was a hero. You know, he was a reporter who got blown up in his car too close to the truth. So he was trying to help the people, not be preyed upon by these fucking jerks.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Yeah. Mary was gorgeous back in.
Oh, Jesus Christ, really? You know, she was kind of cheating because, you know, Deborah Harry, when anyone ever saw her, this is something I bring up on the tour, she was already 33 years old by the time they started Blondie.
Yeah.
33 years old.
Wow.
It's like, that's insane. But, you know, in New York, almost all the punk fans were older. All the people were older. Yeah. And except for Howie Pyro, who was 16. And Darby had a little affair with him when he went to New York. He brought him back, too.
Oh, yeah, Howie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I met him, is when he was 16 years old, and Darby dragged him to my apartment and introduced him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was cool. But you know how they got their name, the Blessed?
Oh, right. Yeah. He used to light his hair on fire.
No, you know what they did? The Blessed was they called it that because they were listening to the Ziggy Stardust album, and the song "Hang On to Yourself." It has that line: "Will the bitter come the better on a stolen guitar? You're the blessed, we're the spiders from Mars."
Oh,
okay. And Howie's like, "Well, I guess they're the spiders from Mars, then we must be the blessed." They had a band that didn't really have a name yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I asked them that.
They're the blessed. What a great story, right? Punk came from Bowie, you know, for a lot of people, like for the Germs, certainly.
Yeah. We
covered "Hang On to Yourself."
Yeah, that's cool.
We did a few covers. We did "Rock and Roll All Night," like Kiss. We did "Hang On to Yourself," and we did what else? Back in the USSR. Hold on a second. If I get cut off, I'll call you back.
All right.
Hey.
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 Hey, you're there.
Yeah.
So what do you think the craziest Vox Pop show was?
Well, I was going to talk about the amps that Terry Churchman built for me, the guy from Silver Chalice. So anyway, he made them out of these basement heads, and I had a speaker cabinet, you know, with like a bunch of weird random speakers in it. And these things would be really powerful amplifiers, and they were really loud, and they were also really fucking distorting. You know, they distort like nobody's business, and good sustain, everything. Like an amp sounds right before it's going to blow up. You know, it sounds the best. Mm-hmm. These sounded like that all the time, and then they did blow up eventually, but then he fixed them. Yeah, but one time, in fact, more than once, my amp was so insane that it started belching out flames from the speakers, like 3-foot long flames coming out of the speakers. And it wasn't like you know, any kind of like effect. or no smoke or mirrors were involved. No animals were hurt. But yeah, that was crazy. And then well, another time, Sherry the Penguin, who was kind of the girlfriend of Tony the Hustler, who Darby was actually living with when they filmed The Decline. In fact, Tony, I guess, suggested that he have a girl come over and act like a beard, you know how gay people will, and he would make himself scarce that day because if they saw this, because he was a full-on leather guy, and if they saw, you know, if Penelope Spears showed up, you know, with the cameras and everything, and there's this leather guy living there with Darby, you know, tongues would wag.
Yeah.
And Darby didn't really want that, and because it was getting to the point of where these hardcore kids, you know, were including all these horrible jocks, all the people that we were so happy to get away from finally were coming back in younger, like more homogenized form as the hardcore OC crowd. That they were genius, amazing, weird motherfuckers, psychedelic warriors from Orange County. Don't get me wrong, Orange County is not the problem. The problem was just the fact that all the jocks and all the assholes that we all that harassed us all when we had weird colored hair, which I never really did, but all my friends did. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's like these same people that would beat us up for being weird were now punk, you know. And please, come on, you know, I didn't want this, you know. That's why I had to invent, you know, death rock. Like 45 Grave. I mean, you know, Vox Pop, people wouldn't really, girls, not that many girls would be interested in Vox Pop, I wouldn't think. I mean, there were some, of course, but, you know, we weren't really a cute guy band so much. Paul was really cool looking, you know, not typically good looking, but he had a schlong to fucking die for, like this guy. It's crazy, unbelievable. He had the longest fingers, too, so, I mean, I guess people could have guessed. He could span almost the entire neck of the guitar with his finger span.
Yeah, that's great.
And he had a Gibson, you know, regulation size Gibson. So, you know, but he played my bass in Vox Pop, and by the time we got in the middle of a set, he was usually naked.
Ha!
So, I mean, he did have some attributes, and he liked to show those off. You know, and who could blame him? You know, you gotta use what you got to get what you want. Woo! You know, as James Brown once said. So he'd be naked, and Sherry the Penguin stuck her head in the bass drum once, and she had a mini skirt on, and she pulled a bloody tampon out with her ass in the air, you know, and her head in the bass drum while we're playing.
Yeah.
And she like starts like swinging this fucking tampon around in a circular motion above her head, like you would a cat by the tail, you know.
Yeah.
You were a really bad person that didn't like cats. Wow. Or you wanted to make a sound that sounded like Darby, when, you know, Lexicon Devil era's Darby.
Yeah.
But you know, that's why it was good. Lexicon Devil Darby. Shane had that, you know, fucking swinging a cat around by the tail over your head sound too. You know, but anything in the mic, which is a real plus. Chris D had a fucking crazy sound. He was like, it was like this weird, you know, like a higher pitched death metal thing, you know. It was like really weird. It was cool. It wasn't really like other stuff.
Yeah, it's different. They were different. Sure.
You know, I like the early Flesh Eaters, like Killed. I like his Yakuza fetish too. I think Chris D's a really interesting guy, and man, that singing style really knocked my socks off when I first heard it.
Yeah, I just talked.
I'm like, whoa, this is fucking brutal.
I just talked to him for 2 hours.
I'll bet it'd be easy to do. He's an interesting character.
Yeah. So you
just the film stuff, even if you didn't know about his punk rock past, you know.
Yeah, his film stuff's crazy.
Blast Magazine, you know, that's nothing to sneeze at, really.
Yeah, fuck all about that. And the Germs.
Well, we just, yeah, you know, the first LA Punk album somehow.
Yeah.
And they used money from ours to put out the X album.
Oh, that's right. And then you joined 45 Grave by just moving in with Mary, or?
No, well, I already lived there, and we were going and making expeditions to Phoenix in her mom's Mercury Marquis, or aunt's Mercury Marquis, and going over to Paul's house to try and woo him back to L.A. so he could play in our band because he's the best musician we knew. Mm-hmm. And him and Rob was down.
Yeah.
So we just needed to get Paul.
Oh.
And we went and we'd go there and we did the SEDS tape there, the Citizens for the Exploration of Deep Space. Paul and Dinah and I and this other guy Mark Vassar that Paul knew that was really a great like improv, you know, like sort of noise / whatever, you know, musician. Really good, really intuitive, really crazy. And, you know, we made some cool things. Like there was a tape that I recently reissued with this other fellow of SEDS. And I still got some available if anyone wants it. It's pretty cool. We made it in an edition of 25 back in 1981 or something, but we recorded it in 78.
Okay.
Like live in the car with toys. And then and toy things. And then we in a Denny's and they threw us out. And then the rest was in like Paul's parents' utility room, you know, with the water heater and stuff. And the washing machine, I think. Luckily, it wasn't on that day, but it could have been, and it would have sounded fine.
Yeah. So I heard Nikki Sixx stole the pentagram from Motley Crue. Is that true?
Well, he used to come to our shows all the time. We liked those guys. They were really sweet. They were really nice, and they really liked 45 Grave a lot, you know. Yeah. I think Nikki really liked Mary a lot. And one night, like this is after I turned up married to this other girl I've been kind of secretly dating for 2 years. It was kind of a creepy, shitty story. Sorry, that was a real Peyton Place of a band. If anyone remembers that reference, that's a cultural reference that only people over 50 would know. But anyway, let's say Fleetwood Mac. You know, the scandals. You know, people going out with each other and cheating on each other and marrying each other and fucking each other over and whatever. It was really a scandalous band. And we were junkies to boot. Just throw that in the bargain, and then you've got an irresistible combination. And especially if you have vocals that the radio will never touch. We didn't care. We liked that. We liked the way she sang.
Yeah.
It was all wrong, but, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know us, but we like things that are all wrong, you know. And so it's like, that's what was weird about the Germs, though, is they thought they were being regular.
Right.
And they you know, and they did these weird things that were like on a level with, like I said, early Throbbing Gristle, I think.
Right, for sure.
In a lot of ways.
What about your energy in the band with Dina Cancer?
Dinah Cancer. Oh yeah. Well, the power shifted when I turned up married to this other girl and Paul Cutler married her. I'm like, whoa, that was quick. But you know, that's cool. And it's like I deserve it. Whatever. I didn't get mad. I don't care about that. That wasn't my business at that point. But then Tammy, that was the girl that I married. Tammy and I moved in with them. That's weird, you know. But yeah, that was kind of weird. But we did that, and then there was this other guy that lived there, and his Clark, and a different Clark, and he was a bike racer. Like he did 10-speed bicycle racing. And he had a Vespa or something. Well, the other one, what's the other one? Oh, fuck, I forget. But you know, he had one of those trendy mod scooters.
Yeah.
Lambretta. He had a Lambretta.
Lambretta. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, so yeah, that was a weird situation. One night after Paul and Mary got married, I hate to spill these beans, but the people need to know, Bob. You know, it's important. The news is important to get out. But okay, so Nikki and Dinah had planned a little rendezvous over at Nikki's place in the Valley in North Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And so she enlisted me secretly to drive her over there. Mm-hmm. And I was fine, I like I said, she was the bummed out one, I didn't get my heart broken until years later, and then I was like, oh, whoa, this is the way I'm doing these ladies. Holy shit, I'm a dick.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh man, ever have one of those moments? It sucks. But anyway, so it's like we went over to Nicky's place, and he's a super nice guy and a good songwriter, I think, and a good band leader guy. Maybe not the best bass player, but you know what? The Beatles weren't real great musicians. They were good enough to play their fucking great songs, though.
Yeah.
That's all you need, Punk rock, Who's a great musician that? Well, actually, I knew a lot of the punk rock people that were amazing musicians, and it's kind of weird. It's almost, it's not quite all of them, It's not, I'm not, I was kind of a terrible musician. I just had a lot of energy and enthusiasm and weird ideas, and I was insane enough to try to do them.
Yeah.
But I couldn't play, like any of these guys. Certainly not. I was no Paul Cutler or Pat Smear.
Mhm.
I was probably Donneria level. I was above Donneria level, I guess. I was beneath Nicky Deed in actual pure, music, skills. I didn't have that, but I had a unique thing.
Yeah.
Going on, because I was taking Vandergraaf generator shit and putting it in the Germs, and that was really weird. Nobody else had done that. Every other drummer was like, they liked all the, the Sex Pistols, New York Dolls, the Stooges, which were all good, but I liked all these really amazing people. Later, people started listening to AC/DC a little, and the metal crossover thing started happening, and people with like major talent, like Chuck Biscuits, what a guy. That guy was a killer drummer, but I wasn't influenced by him because he was after all that.
Yeah.
The same with Bill Stevenson. I was influenced a little by Bill Stevenson, actually, but I still haven't heard the Descendants ever.
Oh, right.
But I heard all. They were nice guys. And Bill Stevenson, man, my favorite, like one of my favorite Black Flags. I hate to get off the subject of me, but but one of my favorite. Well, I guess it's my opinion that we can talk about. Ooh, that's fucking double me. Okay, anyway, double word score. But so my favorite editions of Black Flag, I think, were, well, the first one was pretty good, but not Worm. Well, that was pretty good too in its way. But when I was the only long-haired guy in punk, because I was so radical and I was so rebellious that I would have I would rebel against anything after a while, my own self, if I ran out of stuff to rebel against, I would have cannibalized myself to rebel against.
Yeah.
But I never ran out though. There's always something. There's always way too many things.
Right.
You don't want to get too married to doing that. Boy, you could just do nothing else. But it's good to not rebel every now and then a little bit, just to like catch your breath, so you can rebel better next week.
Right. I get that.
But anyway.
So you went to Nikki Sixx's house.
Oh, so we're over at Nikki Sixx's, and I don't know what went on. Maybe nothing. Maybe they didn't do anything. But they went up in his loft, and he probably, maybe he had some etchings or something in there, and they had to go over each little tiny detail for 2.5 hours. Yeah. Etchings can take a while to really notice everything. They're pretty small.
Yeah.
So, and the lines are very thin and scientific.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know, but anyway, but when we left, she comes downstairs, and I think I fell asleep watching the TV or something, and so I'm like, saying, well, see you later, man. And he's like, yeah, man, here, man, why don't you take this? And he gives me a brand new Washburn bass. It's really nice too. It's super nice Washburn. I'm, really, seriously? But yeah, here, take it, man. Thanks a lot. That was really cool. I'm like, yeah, no problem, man. So, yeah, it's fun.
Eddie took the pentagram, so whatever.
Well, but the thing is, we almost got ours out first. That was my design, by the way. That cover, that sleeve, I inappropriated the imagery that we used.
Yeah.
I used that pentagram, which had only previously been used on a few records. Like it was used on the Anton LaVey Church of Satan Satanic Mass record.
Right.
And that, 68, 68. It was also used on a copycat kind of guy. Well, maybe he got the idea independently, but he used it on his record too. This guy from Torrance, his name was Jamra, and he had an album called like "Welcome to Satan's Lair," and it was on the front, and there was the pentagram, the same one, the Baphomet, and but there was also an upside down cross added.
Oh.
So, behind it or something, and coming down below it so you could tell it was there. But, yeah, and this guy was just like this sort of not watered down, actually like more like drugged up Anton LaVey. He was real strange, the Jamra. But, yeah, it was a similar thing. But then, I designed the sleeve. Michael Shepard, this guy who put out the Vox Pop 7-inch too, which is actually really good. Those singles, I got to say, are the best things that each of those bands did. The Vox Pop 7-inch is the best Vox Pop thing. And there were some live shows that are pretty fucking insane. I forgot to finish to show you the Penguin story. So she's whizzing this bloody tampon around over her head not over her ass, with her head in the kick drum and her ass facing the audience.
Yeah.
And her tampon facing the audience. And man, you never saw a room full of gnarly, manly-ass punk rockers back up to the wall, like you get the fuck away from something ever before that. We never saw that quite that reaction to anything. Even the horrible things we did didn't get that reaction.
Oh, wow.
It's like, whoa, these guys are scared of a tampon. That's insane. These gnarly punk rock dudes, whoa. Well, to be fair, it was Sherry the Penguin's tampon, and you never know what sort of ingredients that might have in it. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. The Germs cover could have been Jelly Beans and Meat, right? Did I tell you about that?
No.
That was what Bob Diggs had proposed. Like, that's what he wanted, and so we're like band meeting. Yeah. And luckily, I'd lived with these cartoonists and illustrators in Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale and stuff before. I got the house with my band guys, in Phoenix. And so I had all this Zipatone, which is the stuff that they use for comic books. That's where the dots come from. It's a shading thing that you peel off. It's sticky on the back a little.
Yeah. And
you cut it with an X-Acto knife to the shape that you need it, and then it's gradated shading with dots mostly. And there's different kinds, different gauges of, and so I also got a bunch of graphics tape and a bunch of Letraset rub-on letters, Helvetica.
Oh,
and they were white, and I had white ones and black ones and whatever, and I had the white graphics tape that we used. So we're like, obviously Darby wants the circle, and I don't really know what it means exactly. There are different explanations for it. It was a Darby thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to ask, we knew it was cool because it was really iconic. Especially when I moved the fucking circle, not in the center, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, let's do the blue circle and the black, but let's put it over here in the bottom right. Yeah. And then they're like, oh yeah, okay, sure, I guess that's good. Yeah, that is good. And then I got the graphics tape out, and I go, then we'll do this, and put the graphics tape. Now we had to say GI on it, although that's not the name of the record at all. But it was just the Germs eponymously titled, first LP.
Right.
Only LP, it turned out. And that was my graphics tape too, and my Letraset rub-on letters. We had to call it GI. Well, we didn't call it GI. Sorry, we had to add the GI because of some cockamamie scheme. Because we weren't allowed to play anywhere in LA at that point, and the police would shut down any club, or they would threaten to shut down any club that would dare to book us and advertise it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, same with Black Flag too, pretty much. After a while, and so we were banned from playing anywhere in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's great.
Because they would threaten the club with not just shutting them down for the night, but forever.
Yeah.
If they let us play.
What did you think of the movie?
That was funny. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, it's like, that's what we get.
Yeah.
But it was fun. But we got that guy, that sings amazingly like Darby, and even better, like I said, because he sings in the mic. We just couldn't let him talk between the songs, but that's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was better, and he saw that instantly. It was better when he didn't do that, 'cause he didn't know what to say. He's not Darby. No one was. That was a problem people had with that version of the Germs. But really, what they didn't get was the Warholian fucking glory of it, of having this pretty boy actor from TV, from ER, and from who fucked Mandy Moore and would roll up to practice in that orange and white Camaro from Walk to Remember that they gave him from the movie. Yeah, he got to ride in that Camaro, and he got to ride Mandy Moore.
That just all sounds bad.
Well, not more than the Camaro, but no. Yeah, I don't know. He tried to one time when he was really, really drunk. He tried to talk me into going in his hotel room with him after a show. He was pretty drunk though, but I was like, no, I'll see you tomorrow. But yeah, he was pretty cute. He looked like a kitty cat, But people got mad because it wasn't Darby, and I'm like, well, we tried, but we couldn't fucking get him to do anything.
Yeah.
He keeps like acting like he's dead.
Yeah.
And then I guess because he is, it's like this big deal, and he can't do anything. I think it's just laziness, personally.
I know you guys played New Wave Theater, 45 Grave, right? What was that like?
Well, it was like pulling teeth to get Paul Cutler down there, because Paul cared about sound and how the band sounded, and so did I. But David Jove sure didn't. He was like the producer of the show, and it was his show, and he wrote all those things that Peter Ivers said. All those spiels, those long spiels that Peter Ivers said while he took his sunglasses off or something.
Yeah.
Those were David Jove, who was also known as the Acid King before that.
Oh.
He was the guy that when he got to Heathrow Airport, the Acid King, one time in the 60s, the police kept him there and said, look, we know who you are. You're the fucking Acid King. And we're going to throw the book at you if you don't help us with a little project. And he's like, well, what's that? And they made him set up the Rolling Stones for that famous drug bust.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what he did.
Oh, shit.
But then he got his daughter back, Lily Hayden. He got her back from Father Yod at the Source Family parking lot. They had like one of those magician battles, like Boris Karloff and Lon Chaney did in that one movie. They're shooting energy balls at each other, not energy drinks, not Faygo.
Faygo, yeah.
They're going. I went straight for the Juggalo on that one. Yep. It's funny. They covered not those guys. It was not ICP. It was one of their spin-off groups. That's them. I forget which one it was, but they covered an Ariel song, and we used to listen to it, and we changed the song because they got the lyrics wrong, or they changed the lyrics and something.
Oh, okay.
It said, Fright Night, better touch your chains, or something, and it's like, that's absolutely not what Ariel said, but your chains.
Do you get royalties for Germs songs that people cover?
What about it?
You get royalties?
I don't think when people cover them I do. No, I just get mechanical. I think maybe the publisher would get that. And that's probably, Pat gets publishing money.
Oh, okay.
Crash Course Music was Pat and Darby, and that's the publisher of all the Germ stuff, as far as I know.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
My publishing company is called Unisex International, and I think it only has a few things on it, and one of the things is I still got to do all that. I went blind and stuff, which kind of made me have to slow down on all the activities like writing and reading and shit like that. But I'm still doing them. And I do 2 flyers every week for my radio shows.
Yeah, well, you wrote some 45 Grave songs, though.
Oh, I did, yeah. And I wrote songs before that, too. I wrote almost all. Oh, you were saying I was, okay, sorry. I've been skipping around a lot tonight. Maybe you can edit it together sometime and make it all make sense. But anyway, so I was talking about frank discussion. So we were hanging out with Sandra Good, and going and visiting Squeaky Prom and in the jail, and and then we went back. We just went back to Phoenix, and he moved into our house room for a minute at one point. Well, I mean, this is years later, so he was living in our big house in Phoenix where I had my punk band, the Liars, Crazy Homicide, Yvonne's, whatever, and sleeping on the floor in the living room until we got up. There's no sleeping then, but he, like, after I left and Rob left, that killed the Crazy Homicide, the Yvonne's, the Liars, and not the Consumers, but because neither of us were in that band, but they killed themselves, but not them actual selves, but the band. But then who else? Oh yeah, Exterminators, and the Exterminators broke up too. So it was just there was all these free musicians running around, and so Frank, who had a thing that he did, because he was influenced by his brother's crowd too, the Space Rockers. They all played Dan Electros, and that's what Frank did. And Frank discussed it. He changed his name to that from Cam Howard, and which I think might have been a good idea. And then he played Dan Electros with no pick. That was his thing. He didn't have a pick ever, and he always played Dan Electros. And he inherited the Exterminators songs because he got Johnny Macho, the singer of the Exterminators, in his new band, the Feeders, to play bass. And he got all my songs because they came along with Johnny Precious, who was in Crazy Homicide and the Liars and the Yvonne's. Mm-hmm. So, it was like this super group. It was everyone that was left in Phoenix. And the Consumers are still the Consumers, but I think they didn't really play much more after they came to L.A. and broke up. That was it. Yeah. I mean, like I said, they tried to reform with me and Rob right then, but I don't know. I think one of the guitar players got cold feet and went back, and then the rest of us just said, you know what, fuck it. Yeah. That guy was good, though, that drummer in the Consumers. He was like this sort of like junior college jazz band kind of guy, really nebbishy blonde guy with glasses, and and he quit to join this kind of terrible new wave band called Blue Shoes or something like that. And but he was so good, like I could never really capture the feel that he effortlessly brought to the Consumers stuff. I mean, everyone should buy that Consumers record if they can find it. I think it's good. Or just getting around, listen to it on YouTube, whatever. Yeah. What do you think? It's pretty good. It was 1977. That was recorded. That's an old one. Yeah, it was amazing. They were really great musicians. Those guys were in real bands, though. They were Paul was in this top 40 sort of horn band called Thornhill, which was a big, that kind of band. I was like, when I found out he was in that band, I was like, whoa. Because you had to be good. That was a professional show band, and he was really great. What do you think the craziest 45 Grave show was? Oh, I didn't even get to the box top thing. Okay, there was the Sherry the Penguin thing. Man, she did fling her tampon into the crowd, and they even went back even farther. Some of them falling through the restroom door, and it was pretty funny. But another thing that happened. Well, Paul was still naked. That was kind of weird. But nobody cared at the cafe. Nobody made him put his pants on or whatever there. There were other shows where the security guard would have Paul's pants, poor guy, and he'd chase Paul around, and Paul would be running from him laughing, drunk off his ass and on fucking drugs. And we had a good time. The shows were kind of interesting. I would have liked it, I guess, if I wasn't in it. I thought, I would dress kind of drag like, not quite like, kind of between androgynous and drag, and not trying to do I don't know, trying to be more like the Runaways or something, And we got the songs too, the Feeders got Destruction Unit, which we also did in Vox Pop. See, we also did most of these songs in Vox Pop too. So it was fair. And then and the Feeders also did Bionic Girl and Just Like Your Mom, which were Liars songs. They were the first two we wrote. Johnny Precious and I wrote them, and did them on the spot in the same day. And then they got these other ones too. I don't know if they used them, like Science Teacher. They might have used that. And Enema Gift. That was a dumb one. But, you know, punk rock. The Destruction Unit, that was a funny one because I have a DJ friend named Alex Brown, who's like the Nico of Atlanta or something. And now she lives in New York, I think. But just beautiful girl and a cool DJ chick. And she has a DJ thing she does here at Zebulon sometimes. But anyway, mostly she's in New York these days, I guess. I don't know about these days, but these days I was keeping track. But, you know, after the pandemic, it's weird. Everything's different a little. But, yeah, but she dragged me to a show one time when she was visiting L.A. from New York of her friend's band. I think she was kind of sweet on this guy at the time. Her friend, Ryan Rousseau. You know, who I didn't know. And they were playing it someplace in Hollywood. And I'm like, sure, let's go. Why not? And so we went, and this band, we get into the place, and I noticed that this band is called Destruction Unit. Oh. And I was like, whoa. You know, after the show, it was pretty good, too. It was weird. It wasn't like the thing they became with the trip metal and the like, sped-up Germs guy drummer. Yeah. But it was pretty good. It was weird. And I you know, immediately became pals with Ryan. He was really cool. And so he came back here and stayed the night on the couch in one of the extra rooms of my building with Alex, because they were like kind of smooching and stuff, you know, billing and cooing, as they say. But so it was like, it was weird. I'm like, so that's cool that you named your band after one of my songs. What do you mean? Isn't that a theater song? I'm like, well, it became so, yeah. But I wrote it for my other band that was pre-theaters. He was like, whoa. And then I found out that he was like, I didn't really know that much about Jay Leotard, but when I found out about Jay Leotard, which was, I guess, I found out about him before that, but Ryan was like his right-hand guy. He was like, you know, he was like Jay Leotard's Pat Smear, you know, like Pat was Darby's Pat Smear. Right. Okay. So that was pretty cool. So I ended up like playing with that band a lot. So they were really good. And the other band that two of the guys in that band have, that is even more amazing, I think. And sometimes a couple of their shows were so fucking amazing to me. I thought they're called Marsh Stepper. Do you know this band? No. Never. It's really kind of experimental, noisy sounding, but there's singing sort of and things, and it's pretty fucking psychedelic. There's strobe lights, which, you know, automatically echo and strobe lights, and I'm into it, you know. Nice. That's all you need, you know, for me. Yeah. But it's like these guys have echo and strobe lights and shit tons of fucking smoke, and so it's pretty perfect. Yeah.
Did you make any videos with 45 Grave?
Yeah, and it's funny, the only video, well, besides so the New Wave Theater thing, sorry, back on the track with that, sorry. So it was tough getting Paul to do it because, like I said, he cared about sound, and David Job insisted that the vocals be mixed like twice as loud as the music, basically, and that is, as you know, if you ever like to listen to good music that's cool and rad and stuff, that ain't how it is, usually, you know, unless it's like Wet Leg or some shit, you know, and it's like, which were good, by the way. I like them, but it didn't work for us. So, but finally we learned just turn the fuck up and don't listen to them when they tell you to turn down. And that worked. But at first it was tough because Paul every time we did it, Paul never wanted to do it again. And I knew it was a good idea to do because that thing was national, maybe even international, on Night Flight. Right. And, you know, so many people saw 45 Grave doing those songs, Wax and Black Cross, and those were good fucking versions of those songs. Those weren't like some shit version that we did. That was the shizzle, you know. That was the fucking shit. Yeah. Wax was funny. Like Paul wrote Black Cross, but Wax, Paul and I both wrote. Okay.
What inspired Wax?
What's that?
What inspired?
Well, Mary wrote the words. Okay. But we wrote the music. Yeah. And it, you know, like the very end, was of the song, the whole last part, like that where it starts with the drum fill. Dead like a piece of old wax, non-existing and all burned out. Extinguish my life, melt the wax. That whole part, it's funny because I made it from all of the notes, the chords that we didn't use in the song, in the rest of the song.
Oh, okay.
Like in the scale,
Yeah.
As far as we used all the notes in the song that there were, except for these chords, like the E and the E flat, and this was all the ones that got left out of the rest of the song.
Oh, all right.
So it's kind of an interesting fun fact.
Yeah.
And the Vox Pop single was really good too. We recorded that one in our garage. The Black Cross one. The Vox Pop one, we went to Media Arts where Spot was engineering.
Oh, okay.
And he did all those Black Flag records there and stuff.
Yeah.
And we had this bass cabinet that wouldn't fit even through the double doors of Media Arts. I don't know where we got it, but it was a bass long throw speaker thing. It was a horn, and it was fucking huge. It barely fit in my sort of extra long Dodge van, like an A108 or something, And at the end of it was a 15-inch Gauss speaker at the little end, and then it got huge to where it wouldn't even fit in double doors.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was insane. And so we just put it up against the door.
You said Spot
and opened it. Yeah, Spot. I know, it's sad. He was a really good engineer. I think he was a cool guy too. Like nobody I know had a bad thing to say about Spot. Because sometimes it comes out after they die. Well, he also was, fucking poodles, the little league field, but we don't, we don't have anything like that on Spot. Spot seems to be stainless. But the funny thing about that Vox Pop record is, just like Your Mom Is on It, which is a song that Johnny Precious and I wrote and did, but he sang the one that Crazy Homicide or The Liars or whatever did. But I had to sing the one on this because he wasn't around. Then he died. He died of some weird death because of too much cocaine and too little liver. Which is weird. I didn't even know. I knew he did cocaine, but I didn't know that he did enough to fucking die. But whatever.
Did any weird stuff happen at your time in 45 Grave? Any weird?
Yeah. I was getting the other Vox Pop one. Vox Pop opened for Wall of Voodoo at the Whiskey when Wall of Voodoo was kind of big.
Oh, okay.
I think Stan Ridgway was still in it,
Yeah.
And it was big. They were playing it on the radio. Mexican radio was a hit. And somehow Vox Pop, they were our friends, and they loved Vox Pop for some strange reason. I'm always amazed when that happens, but it does. And people will like anything if you do it. There'll be some people that'll like it, no matter how fucked up it is. But so Kim Comet, the singer of Silver Chalice, who was a virgin until he was like 30 something, I think, he got de-virginized in front of my Cahuenga residence, the famous Cahuenga house, in the front cab of a Toyota pickup by this girl Rodan, who originally brummed for Hole, I think, among other things, among other claims to fame. Yeah. He was in what was it? Fucking Robert Omelette. He was in the Omelets. Robert Omelette.
Oh yeah.
Those guys were really cool. They'd come over and drop acid with me and Paul Cutler at our Cahuenga place.
Nice.
Yeah, they were great. They were really good friends of ours. We liked them and their weird crowd. And Paul was dating one of the girls from that crowd, this girl Denise. They were friends with Roz too. Christian Death. When we first saw Christian Death, they opened for us at the Pomona fucking arts center or something, and they had green army fatigues and short hair. They didn't look goth at all or anything, even death rock, nothing.
Wow. Great.
And we show up in our fucking death rock corpse paint and all our black lace shit and fucking gothic horror fashion or whatever it was that we did. And then we, played what we played and did what we did, and I think they liked it. And then next thing you know, they fucking way out-gothed us, that's for sure. I think death rock levels were similar though, but they were gothier than we.
Yeah.
We were.
Did you hang out with Roz at all, or?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like things got pretty edgy when Roz was around, which was pretty cool. He used to hang out with Darby when he was like 13. Darby took him under his wing and showed him the ropes, I guess, but didn't tie him up with him or anything though. I've heard that it was platonic mostly. But you never know. Darby did like the young boys, and Roz was like peach, man. Roz was cute. He was young. He was insane. And he was brilliant. He was curious. He was everything you want in a young paramour, especially with Darby. But I don't know. Maybe, Darby was a respectful guy. Who knows? Who knows what happened or didn't? None of my business anyway, but it does make for good stories.
Yeah. And what's the family Partridge Temple? Are you part of that?
Oh, the Partridge Family Temple. Yeah, but they worship the Partridge family as a pantheon of gods and goddesses, like Danny Bonaduce, or what's his name, Partridge? Danny Partridge, is that what he was?
Yeah.
Was he Danny? Did they do that with them because they would have forgotten their names otherwise? I don't know, but yeah, he represents Lokai, the trickster god, and Satan and such. So the Keith Partridge represents the Savior, Jesus, the Savior, and all those things.
Yeah.
Yahweh, everything. And then Shirley, like she's the sacred mother,
Mm.
and then of course Laurie Partridge is the whore of Babylon, and the Madonna at the same time.
Right.
Well, Shirley's the Madonna more, but Laurie is too. She's like really important in the pantheon as well because she's, she's fucking hot. She was. One time I went to an AA meeting with the Red Cross guys, and she was there.
Oh, right on.
That's why they went to that one. I went to another one with them, and there was Christina Applegate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it used to pay off to go to those AA meetings, I'll tell you. Maybe it's still the same way, but I don't know if I got anything out of it spiritually or functionally. I found the best way to quit doing something, unless it's benzos, and then you need a doctor's support. But it's hard to get to because you might die and sue them. So they don't even want to take that on.
That's
and they
true.
prescribed them for you in the first place because they got so much money. Weird.
Yeah.
You didn't need them. But anyway, yeah. But I believe that you just stop doing something if you don't want to do it anymore. You don't fucking go to rehab or something. That's ridiculous. You don't go to AA. You stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the big fucking problem with that? I don't know. Whatever. I understand it. People don't want to do something that like John Lennon would freak about, and cold turkey. And that's basically, though, just like having a really fucked flu or cold.
Yeah.
Problem is, it would go away so quick if you just had a little dope.
Everything works differently for different people. That's how I see it.
Some things don't work at all for them.
Yeah.
For fuckers. That thing worked too good for me, and like it seemed too easy. I didn't even realize that I was fucking hooked until I was.
Yeah.
But, it was the only drug I could do and still sort of play drums. Like with the Germs and 45 Grade, both I couldn't eat for 6 hours before a show. I couldn't drink beer or any alcohol. I couldn't smoke weed before the show, like probably for an hour before the show, at least. And I definitely couldn't do speed. I did that once. Yeah. If I could slam some speed right before going on, it seemed like a good idea. Right. Yeah, in San Francisco, I'll never forget this fucking shitty show. It was like I played the first song at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Well, most of it.
Wow.
Then I slowed down.
Yeah.
And then it was like my arms were made of lead. I couldn't even move them hardly. And I was like, well, never doing this again.
How'd you join X?
What's that?
Zoller X.
Oh, man. Those guys, I saw them in 77 when I was on my way basically to try to move in with Olga the Volga in San Francisco, but I was having a little LA holiday with my friend who had the pirate station in Phoenix that I was on, Freddie Snakeskin. His name was Dave Trout at the time. He was on the new 10Q, which was an AM station that played like Aerosmith, Donna Summer, and the Sex Pistols.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty good. Yeah, he was Dave Trout. Real Don Steele was on that station. It was the new 10Q, and it was located by Sunset Boulevard and Van Ness, like by the freeway.
Oh.
Now it's a Spanish language station. Those do pretty well in LA. So everyone sells their radio stations, and everyone sells them to Spanish language stations, which do better than they did.
Yeah.
So, go figure. But yeah, we're Castration Squad. You forgot all about that. Oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty weird. I played drums with them a couple of times, I guess. And I made them learn Interstellar Overdrive from Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Pink Floyd album. And I have a tape of it. It's pretty good.
And then you were in Fancy Space People.
Yeah, you still am actually. Still working on that record. I'm gonna work on it this week actually.
Do you guys ever play live?
We played a bunch of times live. We were like the biggest live act in LA for a while.
Oh, okay. But like a tour or no? Do you guys tour?
Yeah, we toured with the Smashing Pumpkins once, and we did some other touring too, a little like up the coast and whatever. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
But then Billy Corgan's label, he got in a fight sort of with the other guy at the label, and so the label dissolved, and our record didn't get any kind of good release or anything, and it was only an EP anyway, and nobody knew really at the time, including the label. They didn't know. But Billy might have known, but nobody asked him because nobody thought to. Mm-hmm. But you can't sell an EP, a 12-inch EP, for what you can sell an LP for.
Right.
But it costs the same amount of money to make.
Yeah.
Manufacture.
And
nobody made money off of it. And in fact, there's still, I'm sure, some copies left somewhere. But that EP's pretty good. Fancy Space People theme is one of the best sounding things I ever did. Although I'm going to fuck with it on the album. I'm going to make the leads at the end a little louder. And a couple of others. There's a couple other things. Mostly it's just that. For some reason, I don't know. People never want to have guitars loud enough. Lead guitars should be like louder than the vocals, you know?
Yeah.
Like when they're the only thing there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no. But when they're the only thing there, for sure. People are scared of guitars now. It's like, it's like saying you were going to bring your clarinet to like your acid rock band, practice.
Yeah. You also roadie for the Screamers, right?
I did. I talked about that at the Punk Rock Museum, and this is funny because those guys were a great band. I saw when I was on when I was staying with Freddie Snakeskin that trip to LA on the way to San Francisco, I saw two shows. Mm. One of them was at the K-Rock Cabaret, which was later became Osco's Disco, and it was at San Vicente and La Cienega in West Hollywood. Right across from that restaurant that's in the Loved One that had the big giant fish with its mouth open as the entrance. Yeah, that. It was right across from that. And so I went there, and this band, Zolar X, was playing. And it was Kim Fowley New Wave Night. And so so this is July 77, early July 77. And so I saw the name Kim Fowley. I'm like, I'm going to Kim Fowley New Wave Night. I don't give a fuck what Zolar X is. I'm going to meet Kim. Yeah. And he was there. But then Zolar X, I didn't know. I think I'd seen one picture in Rock Scene magazine, and I forgot about it until I saw them on the stage. And I'm like, oh, my God, yes, this fucking band. This is insane. I couldn't believe my good fortune. They were so good. And it's so crazy. I mean, their heyday was over pretty much in a way, but they hadn't even released their record yet, really. I think they put out a single, limited edition single, I don't know, but of Space Age Love, and something else. But I think the one on the album is a little better, even though the one on the single's faster. But anyway, I became friends with Weigar later, too. He lived at the Canterbury on the 4th floor, same floor Rob lived on. And Alan MacDonald, who wrote that great Prisoner of X book and Punk Eulogies. But that Prisoner of X book that he wrote, man, that thing, I laughed LAFF aloud reading a book, you know, and that doesn't always happen. Like Woody Allen did that to me sometimes. You know, the Without Feathers was an amazing book that had some really fucked up things. Like If the Impressionists Were Dentists, that was a great short story. So I hurt myself laughing with that one. But anyway, so
Screamers.
Oh yeah, so anyway, Zolar X. So I see Zolar X, I'm like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And then I met Kim, and I, you know, of course I was starstruck. I moved to LA because Kim Fowley was my hero, and he was from LA. And you know, I like Zappa too, you know, and those guys were in a band together, the Mothers. Like Kim quit, and Zappa wanted him to be in the band, but he said that I'm gonna go do my own thing. Yeah. And he did so much fucking shit, like crazy stuff. And he was a weird guy. And I became friends with him later. And, you know, I guess I worked with him in a way because he and I are co-writers on a song, at least one song on the Pom Pom album with Ariel Pink.
Oh, yeah.
And
Ariel Pink.
Yeah, well, he's doing good. I just was texting with him today. He has been getting into Mighty Sphincter, the band, lately. Really, he's really into them right now. And we were talking about Doug Clark from the Exterminators, who started that band, Mighty Sphincter. It was his band after he moved here. And he took a bus back. He lived with me at first. And did I tell you this? So anyway, I think there's another thought I didn't complete. Jesus Christ, I'm fucked. But anyway, I usually get back to him, though, if you don't hang up. All you got to do is live forever, and you'll hear the end of the story. But yeah, I was so Buzzy Murder. That was his punk name, Doug Clark. Lived here, and then he went to the Mask one day to hang out. Did I tell you this already? And
no.
He came back, like, because we all hung out at the Mask. You know, Joan Jett would be in there beating the shit out of her girlfriend, and the girlfriend would be beating the shit out of her, and they'd be calling each other fucking whore and bitch, and they'd be on downers and stuff, and it was crazy. It was insane. But it was kind of interesting. Especially to a kid fresh off the boat from Phoenix. I was like, gosh, you know. And, you know, but it was a rehearsal studio. The Controllers rehearsed there, the Skulls rehearsed there, who became the Wall of Voodoo guys later, you know. But anyway, that was the later Wall of Voodoo with Andy Preboy. But, yeah, nice guy. But like, so, wait a minute, where am I? Oh yeah, Doug Clark. He just found out that he died. You know, Mighty Sphincter guy. And so what happened was, he went to the Mask one day, and then he came back to my apartment, which was like half a block away. You know, that's why that apartment building was so cool, right by the Mask. But he came back to my apartment, and he had this look I'd never seen on his face. He was like shell shocked. I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, what? What happened, man? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, okay. I got to go home. Home? Isn't this where you live? No, I got to go home. I got to get a bus. Something, I don't know. And apparently, I got it out of him finally, like this woman, Linda Bomblast. I don't mean to name any names, but it's kind of bad. But this is a long time ago. You know, statute of limitations probably ran out, and Doug's dead now anyway, so he's not gonna, you know, come looking for anyone. But the hauntings would scare you. But yeah, so apparently she like raped him somehow or something like that. I'm still not really sure what exact sex acts were perpetrated upon his not totally innocent but very young body, but by this woman, this crazy fucking butchy woman. But you know, she didn't seem like an evil person or anything to me ever, but man, that was kind of crazy. And then he went home, and suddenly he's on like this huge fucking doses of lithium, and he's schizophrenic. I guess it triggered whatever it was. It triggered us like late blooming schizophrenia. It's not the only time I've seen this, but it can be triggered by trauma and some stuff like that, I guess. But you know, but it often comes on young people, you know, in like the late teens, early 20s. Like, you know, they don't have it before, you know.
Right.
But anyway, he's doing stuff like he's at 7-Eleven and he breaks into the beer cooler and grabs a case of beer, and it's after 1 o'clock, which is when they stopped selling alcohol. And he goes, "But you must sell it to me. I am Count Dracula." And he had red and black magic marker all over his face, like black, drew like a goatee and a mustache on this black marker, and then red marker all over the rest of his face.
Yeah.
And had a cape on. "You must sell it to me. I am the Count Dracula." And it was like, so they called the cops, and I guess he went to jail, and then he went back to the mental hospital for a while, and he was never the same. He fixated on 45 Grave at some point, as a matter of fact. And it's like, dude, it's like, this is weird, just saying all this creepy stuff that we're doing, like we're like sending like these death rays into his, like nipples or something. I don't know, but it was pretty crazy. He didn't do speed, or I would have said it was like amphetamine psychosis.
Yeah.
That usually does that. So anyway, the Weird Box Pop Show, we're opening for Wall of Voodoo. And Kim Comet, the singer of Silver Shallows, is up on stage. I was drunk off my fucking ass at that show. I was playing guitar, but I was like kind of woozy, like, oh, And finally I passed out. But before I saw Kim Comet, and I remember this, he had his pants kind of down, and his ween was out, and he's like pulling his pubic hairs out with pliers in big clumps, and then throwing them into the crowd. That at the whiskey, you could be right there in front of the stage, and these people it was a sold out Wall of Voodoo show.
Yeah.
Not our crowd, but these were like normal people, because they played them on K-Rock all the time, and these people were fucking horrified beyond belief. They had never seen anything quite like this. Even though it might not seem like much, it seemed like much to these people. All that, and that he kept doing it, and because Kim said he did that, he was like this golden Adonis, this like surfer-looking god, He was cool looking, but he wouldn't like have sex with girls. He was a virgin. He would but there would be these really young teenage girls that he would give his number to, and they'd call him or something, and then he'd teach them how to masturbate over the phone and stuff. And that's how he got off.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird.
What about the Celebrity Skin Band? Well, that
was a great band. That was like a whole world. So that was after I quit drugs, and I got a job at the LA Weekly, and I had to move out of my apartment and let my girlfriend have it because she wouldn't quit dope. And then she ran off with my fucking Jack Chick Christian tract collection. I was bummed, including an original copy of the original version of the first one, which was The Beast. Oh. I mean, that thing fucking ruled. It was bigger than the Chick publications became a little bit, like probably a half an inch bigger, or each width and height. Yeah. And had more pages, and it was like, and the Last Generation, that was another one that there was an original version, and then there was a watered down later one, because it was insane. Some of these things were fucking crazy. Yeah.
What did you write?
Yeah. What's that?
Did you write SOS?
No, ABBA did.
Oh, okay.
But I did pick that as a cover we should do.
Yeah.
And it was a great idea. It just seemed like when I was listening to it, I'm like, this would sound really fucking crazy if we did it, and Jason and Bob were playing that insane lunatic rock star cartoon guitar like they do, Yeah. And but it was crazy. It was a very punk rock band, and the album doesn't really reflect that, but it was very punk rock.
I didn't know that was an ABBA song. I didn't know it was cool.
Yeah, it was an ABBA song.
Yeah.
And so the problem is, and let this be a lesson to all you other people who are thinking about doing a really, really good cover song when your band doesn't really have any really, really, really good songs of its own. That's all anyone's ever going to want to hear. And you're going to be sad. Yeah. You're always going to have to play it, and no one's ever going to like your crappy songs because they're not as good as an ABBA song, because that's just the way it is. It's a law of nature. You're not going to write better songs than ABBA, so don't fuck with them.
So what does punk rock mean to you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, It was a thing. It was a definite thing. It was part 60s, you know, like Psychotic Reaction. It was part 96 Tears. It was part like fucking Juvenile Delinquents and Rockabilly. And it was all these things. It was, and it came out of glam and bubblegum, really. Like the Ramones wanted to be glam, but they couldn't do it because it was too complicated. It wasn't that complicated either. So they opted for the slightly simpler bubblegum thing, and they just emulated that, but hopped it up, you know.
Yeah.
And that it seemed to be a pretty good formula for them.
Yeah.
And they were fucking great. I was friends with Joey.
Oh,
he was
nice.
so fucking sweet. He was like the sweetest guy. I mean, I'm sorry if you think I'm making you feel gay or Joey, but you know, you were a sweet guy. Yeah, he was. He really was. Not like a gay sweet guy, but he and I would just sit in the corner in the hotel room while all the shenanigans were going on and all the drugs were being done. And, you know, I do a little bit of drugs, but not when I was hanging with Joey because he wouldn't. And so I was so fascinated by him. I just hang where he was. And we would just never talk, really, because we didn't need to. We just watching everybody and laughing.
Yeah, that's great.
So it was really fun. He was really great. He really made that band, you know. I mean, they all did, but, you know.
Yeah.
But I liked the Ramones. I learned their songs on guitar and on bass, you know.
Right on.
Like back when I first got those albums in the, you know, early mid-70s.
Yeah. And what would you say Darby? If you could say anything Darby now, what would you say?
Well, you know, this is funny because when I was at the LA Weekly, trance channeling was huge, and there were like entities like Seth that people would trance channel, and then he would talk to you and say things and tell you about your future and stuff and whatever, or give you advice, you know. Like he was one of the Space Brothers and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, someone channeled Darby once, some trance channeler person. And they claimed they were channeling Darby.
Huh.
And someone someone asked him because they did an article on him at the Weekly. Somebody did. And they asked him if he wanted to say something to Don Bolles, you know. They asked him other stuff, and then they asked what he'd say to me, and he goes, "Nice hat." And it was funny because I had just really started wearing hats because my hair was starting to thin a little bit in the front, and I was kind of weirded out by it, even though nobody else would have ever noticed. I started wearing hats right then, and I had never really worn hats much before. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah. He knew.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, was it real? Who knows? But it sure fucking made me go, whoa, you know, for a second.
Yeah, it's trippy. Well, do you have last words, Don?
What's that?
Do you have any last words?
Yeah, please don't kill me. No, please, no. Ah!
Right.
Those are famous last words, I'll bet.
Yeah.
I think that's like Peter Ivor's last words.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, thanks for your time, Don. Pleasure, man.
I listened to a psychic that was holding Peter's watch with no information about it. David Jove had a tape of this, and he was playing it for me and looking at me with these crazy eyes. And this psychic was going, you know, no one told him what this watch was and whose it was or anything. Just send it to the psychic. That's how you do it with psychics, right? And this guy was like, "Oh, hi, what are you doing here? Oh, hey, no, oh my God, you're killing me, oh my God, ah!" You know, it was so fucked up. And David Joseph staring at me with this crazed look. I mean, my theory was, and Tequila too, Tequila and I have talked about the possibility that she and Peter were going to take the New Wave Theater idea and move to England and do it there without David. It was David's show.
Okay.
You know, and he was like, it was his baby, you know. And so the theory was that Earache, who was the head of the LA Death Squad gang, He was this big giant dude that looked like Herman Munster dipped in a bottle of bleach, basically. With some swastika tattoos and a leather jacket. And he was big. But I guess my girlfriend Leah and I at the time, we helped him out when he was all fucked up and he was making farting things out of his mouth because he did way too much speed. And we calmed him down and we laid him on the floor and we got him liquids and we nursed him back to health, basically. And he was really forever sweet to us and protected us from any worse people, which actually, I don't know if there were any, but anyone that was even close to his dad. And he was a badass, man, big guy too. But he's sweet as fuck to me all the time, so it's really hard for me to see him as a murderer, but maybe. You know?
Yeah. So
our theory was that it might have been Eric that did it, and it might have been David Jove paying him to do it. But I don't know, because Eric would do almost anything. He wasn't a mean guy, but he didn't really have a lot of boundaries as far as crime and things go, and he was just very laissez-faire about it. I don't know, though. But I don't know if that's true. It's just a theory, just a guess, just because I've always been a little bit curious, because after hearing that fucking tape, I'll tell you, and it seemed like if that was true, that Peter knew the person, and it wasn't entirely bizarre that he was there late at night, hovering over his bed.
Yeah,
that's weird, right? I mean, I don't know.
A little weird.
Yeah, it is. And anyway, I guess hopefully, I know David Jove and Earache are both long past, so whatever. It's funny, you make a choice, not that they, I mean, I guess they were my friends, yeah, okay. But it's you make a choice as you get older, and it's either you die or all your friends die.
Yeah, kill or be killed. Yeah.
And no, I don't know, or just live or be dead. Live or be dead.
There you go.
Or live without all your friends or be dead.
Live or be dead. Awesome.
Yeah, live and be dead. That'll be my motto. No, I've got these new shirts I'm making for merch to sell at the next punk rock things. The punk rock, my misguided tours of the punk rock museum.
Yeah.
I'm giving some in May, probably at punk rock bowling time. I'll be marrying people too, not to be married to them, but to perform the ceremony for them. So those psychobilly guys can marry their, burlesque chicks and drive off in their rat rods.
Yeah. Live or be dead.
It'll be cool, but I'm making these shirts that because I wanted to express 45 Grave and Germs participation, because people that the Punk Museum seem to care about those two things the most. And so I got a picture of me that this guy Brian Walsby did I'm holding the thigh bones that Nazi sex bitch, a.k.a. Rick Crowell, and this other guy, Robert, anyway, they dug him up out of a grave and gave them to me.
Oh,
and
wow.
I used them to play drums at the Whiskey at a show.
Oh,
I think it was the one where Christian Death crucified the cat.
Oh,
it was already dead. But yeah, they didn't kill it either. But anyway, yeah.
Oh, you were there or no?
Yeah, no, I was I was there.
Oh, okay.
It was dead already.
Dead cat. Oh.
They weren't cruel to cats.
Yeah.
I don't think it really hurts the fucking cat to crucify it,
If it's dead, well, yeah.
Yeah, especially if it's dead. But anyway, the back, and there's a blue circle with a blue pentagram in it behind me.
Oh.
And then killing two birds with one iconic, killing one bird with two iconic symbols. but I made the back. I put a quote. That actually isn't my quote, but I said it was because it's so good. My friend Phil Milstein said it to me, and it was so funny that I have to steal it. But it just says, "Who are you to tell me to question authority?" Don Bolles.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the latest from Unisex Studios here in beautiful uptown Vernon.
All right, Don. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah. If you find any other unfinished sagas that I started and forgot all about, you feel free to call and hit me up about it. I'm sure there's one or two.
All right, Don. Thanks.
All right, see ya. Bye.